Hello, welcome to today's video. Welcome back. Sorry, it's been a minute, I've been busy, but I've just finished my degree, which is great. But anyway, today I'm going to be talking about why you'll never be famous on social media. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going to be talking about why some people are famous on social media and why some people aren't famous on social media. And shockingly, it actually doesn't all come down to hard work. This is the problem of meritocracy. So what is meritocracy? Meritocracy is pretty much the whole idea that we've had drilled into us since we were small, that if you work hard, then you will get where you want, that you'll achieve success. And it's true to an extent. Hard work does yield results generally. But today I'm going to argue that it tends to produce better or perhaps quicker results in certain people over others. So I'm going to frame my discussion around what I've personally observed as the three main ways to sort of gain social media success, to gain like a social media following, and whether hard work actually has something to do with any of these three ways of getting famous. So let us begin. The first reason people get famous on social media is pretty obvious. It's the idea of pretty privilege, and that if you are attractive, then people will follow you. I would say that if you're a beautiful person and you decide you want to be social media famous, it is something that's very attainable for you. Like, you could do it with very little work, I think. Often that is the case. Like, there are all of these TikToks that were going around a few months ago of people saying
I want to be famous for just sitting and looking at a camera.
And it is so true, right? I think the most famous TikTok, or the most viewed or liked TikTok, is this girl making faces to the camera. It's like that M to the B trend and she's just making faces, but she has a very beautiful face, or a very conventionally attractive face. And even though she isn't necessarily doing anything of value or anything, she's not really doing anything, frankly, people see her face and they're like, wow, so they like the video. And I think this just shows the power of attractiveness. Speaking with TikTok, there is a very good reason why certain creators do exponentially well. So let's take the example of Charli D'Amelio and Addison Lee. Wait, oh my god, no, Addison Lee's a car company. Addison Rae. Basically, they are famous off of the backs of something that they didn't create themselves. I don't know if you saw Addison, was on one of those American talk shows doing her dances, the dances that were choreographed by black girls, and pretty much just ripping them off at that point. And I'm not saying that pretty people don't work hard for their success, because they do. I am just saying that they don't work, the work that they do leads to exponential amounts of success, and it isn't even as hard work as other people are doing. For example, take this dancing example. The dances that Charli and Addison got famous from were choreographed by black girls who have achieved very little fame in comparison to that. And all that Charli and Addison have done is dance those dances. They didn't have to create the dances. They just performed them in their conventionally attractive bodies and therefore achieved success because of it. And this is what I'm saying. The people who they were inspired by haven't even achieved a fraction of their success, because meritocracy isn't really a thing, despite the fact that they've worked harder because they literally created the dance. It just shows that meritocracy on social media, when it comes to pretty privilege, it's sort of cancelled out, isn't it? Being conventionally attractive, skinny, able-bodied, usually white or lighter skinned, will get you the platform that you need to work towards success. And then the success that you do achieve will be exponentially greater than anyone else's, because you have a beautiful face and or a beautiful body, and that's what people want to look at. If you're attractive, you will do better for slightly less work, as shown by this dance example. Another thing about social media is a lot of it is about aspiration. The reason that people will follow influencers is because they want their lives. If you are able to create a life that people want, then you can do very, very well. This is a given. If you have a sick life, people want to follow you and gulp at the sickness of your life. However, I think that a lot of the people that we see online with really cool lives, who are able to leverage the fact that they have cool lives, gain a following, and then create even cooler lives because they have all the opportunities that a following gives you, only have this initial aspirational lifestyle because of a different kind of privilege, socioeconomic privilege. Like, think of that really big trend in like 2016 where there were loads of kids from LA spending summers in Greece and Bali and making all of those YouTube video montages that went completely viral. There is no way in hell the average teenager would be able to afford such a thing. No way in hell. But the average teenager was aspiring to this. And the only reason that these creators did so well back then was because they had the socioeconomic privilege to do so. Their parents maybe funded it, or maybe even pretty privilege came into it. I know a couple of them were models, so they would get the trips paid for, and then they'd be able to go on the trips and make money from documenting the trips. And this is what I mean, it's cyclical. All of these things play into each other. Their ability to make this aspirational content didn't necessarily come from the fact that, I don't know, they were just able to take something ordinary and make it amazing. It was, there was an initial boost there, initial privilege that allowed them to make that content, which then elevated their lifestyle to the level that is just insane. And actually back to this whole idea of like a regular life thing. I think the aspirational lifestyle thing doesn't even actually have to be like rich and extravagant. People showing like their apartments in like New York City, or like going on these big trips to Greece. I think we can see it in the average-ish lifestyle content creator space, especially how it is now on YouTube, where these creators present themselves as kind of like a pretty normal person, someone you'd want to be friends with maybe, but there is just this little gap, right? Something about their lives is just that little bit better. They present it in like an aesthetic sort of way that does make it seem like just that little bit better, so it becomes aspirational content in a way, but it's still relatable. It's sinister. It's like a your life but better sort of thing. And Amanda Mariana talks about this in her video about meritocracy, which is really good. I think a lot of this again does come down to socioeconomic privilege. Like, for example, there's this girl at my uni who makes YouTube videos, lifestyle content YouTube videos, and she has done so well. And I think it is because she's so relatable, yet still aspirational, because she's a regular girl who does regular things, but in a way that is beautiful and aesthetically pleasing and makes for amazing content. And she's also a very typical Edinburgh uni student in that she's like pretty, and I'm assuming middle class, because it's a very expensive place to live and an expensive uni to go to. Although she has worked hard, obviously you can see that in her videos. I love her videos. Her ability to make such aesthetic content comes from the fact that she is able to live this life in Edinburgh and have the socioeconomic privileges to buy the pretty things, to have all of these nice plants and live in a beautiful Edinburgh flat. The socioeconomic privilege comes into that. And of course she puts work into her content, but her videos wouldn't be so good if she didn't already have the means to live this life. An element of luck and privilege has come into her success. The final category to talk about is those who offer something of value. So this is the most interesting one, I think, as it's the umbrella under which it is the hardest, I think, to become social media famous, but also sort of the most accessible, because the other two ways are kind of down to a lot of luck, pretty much, like being born with the right face or into the right family. But this one, like, you can cultivate a talent, or you could cultivate being a good educator or whatever, because it doesn't involve necessarily a lot of luck. It's the one that takes the most amount of work to do well at. Think about it, like if you want to make educational content or like inspiring content, or raise awareness about certain issues, then you have to be very clued up. You have to know your stuff. You don't have any of the other two boosters to then move on to this, to gain an audience and then move on to giving value to this audience. You have to do the work from the ground up. And I'm not saying that those who fall into the two prior categories aren't good at what they do, because they absolutely are, otherwise they wouldn't be famous. But then has to be an acknowledgement that their various privileges gave them the boost that they needed, whether it's having like a nice lifestyle to film or a nice face to film. I think I personally actually have the most respect for these creators who give value, who teach you something, because they exist in a niche that is the hardest to grow in, because the internet has made everyone fickle and superficial, and no one wants to consume anything that takes up more than 15 seconds of their time. And they've used a lot of skill to get there. And like, if you've done well in this niche, it's amazing, because no one has an attention span anymore. But okay, the problem I'm actually going to get at here is the fact that those who do well in this offering value category also generally have one of the two other privileges. They're either attractive or have had the means to maybe not have to work a full-time job, so they have the time to research content and make it valuable. I talk about this a bit in my like why LeftTube is so white video. And yeah, I think that like even in the spaces of educational content, valuable content, there is still an element of privilege does still come into it, right? Because in order, like, making content is not easy. It is not. And like, it becomes easier once you have an element of like luck or privilege. I guess what I'm trying to say with all of this is that yes, hard work does get you places online, but there are very few instances in which luck and actually privilege mostly don't play a role in it too, or aren't a contributing factor. I don't know if any of this makes sense. I feel like it was a very rambly video, but it's just some thoughts I've been having about the people who do well on social media. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I'd love to know your thoughts. Please comment any thoughts that you might have. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I will see you very, very soon. Bye.